Fire in one of the most explosive congressional moments in recent memory, Steve Scalise obliterates Hakeem Jeffries' fiery anti-Trump rant with cold, hard facts, exposing the truth behind the so-called extremist bill that Democrats claim punishes working Americans but in reality delivers historic pay raises for troops, boosts funding for veterans, and cracks down on fraud, illegal immigration, and government corruption. As Jeffries clutches his pearls over a bill he likely didn't even read, Scalise breaks it down line by line, proving this fight isn't about Trump, it's about fixing broken systems and finally doing right by the American people.
You won't believe how brutally honest Scalise gets. Let's dive in.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Steve Scalise gives the best response to Hakeem Jeffries' ridiculous speech you might ever see in Congress.
In this fiery congressional exchange, a political clash unfolds between House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise over a Republican-backed bill that Democrats claim favors the wealthy while hurting working-class Americans. Jeffries accuses Republicans of blindly obeying former President Trump, abandoning bipartisan...
Says jump, extreme MAGA Republicans say how high. And he ordered the Republicans to leave the negotiating table to try to jam this far-right extremist bill down the throats of the American people. There are so many challenges with this bill, too many to detail. It's all part of a broader scheme to pass massive tax cuts for billionaire donors, the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected, and then to stick working-class Americans with the bill. This entire scheme. And as Democrats, we want no part of it because we're fighting hard to make life better for everyday Americans, to make sure that when you work hard and play by the rules in the United States of America, you should be able to provide a comfortable living for yourself and for your family. Educate your children, purchase a home, have access to health care. Go on vacation every now and then. One day retire with grace and with dignity. That's the American dream. As House Democrats, we're fighting to preserve.
All seven out of seven swing states all voted for President Trump because they wanted that agenda implemented. And what irates the Democrats the most? The fact that President Trump is following through on the promises that he made, actually doing the things he said he would do. He's securing the border. That was the number one issue all across this country. No matter which state you went to, people wanted a secure border, and he's following through on it. And yet the Democrat Party is criticizing him for doing that part of his job. Rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in government, something that should be bipartisan. In fact, it used to be bipartisan to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, but now because Donald Trump is doing it, the Democrat Party of today up here in Washington is so consumed with hatred that they oppose even rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. That has been not only highlighted up here, but people around the country are talking about getting rid of that waste once they've seen it. A lot of this was a veil that was pulled down where people couldn't even find out what was going on because of payment systems
and negotiations, and pushing through what he calls a far-right extremist bill designed to provide massive tax cuts to billionaire donors while leaving ordinary Americans to foot the bill. He argues the legislation is part of a broader Republican agenda to undercut social programs and government oversight under the guise of fiscal responsibility. Jeffries paints a picture of Democrats fighting for the
were being hidden by the Biden administration. We couldn't even find out about a lot of that spending that we were anecdotally hearing about. But finally, you saw it on full display. And it was so embarrassing that some of those employees have left. Fortunately, a lot of that taxpayer money that was being wasted is now being saved. And the money is being recouped so that we can shore up programs that work vitally for people. The president talked about Social Security, a program that we help protect. When you've got somebody that's listed as 300 years old in the Social Security system, that shows you the kind of fraud and abuse that's going on. And the fact that President Trump is willing to confront that and take it on so that people actually paid into the program their whole lives can get the benefits they deserve. That's what people elected President Trump and this majority on the Republican side to do. But you would think Democrats would want to join in and help accomplish that. And yet here they are on this floor talking about things that aren't even in the bill, trying to scare people, talking about cuts to veterans in the bill, and maybe because they just didn't read the bill. It's only 99 pages long. I would urge them to go read it. They might actually vote for this bill in the next hour because they'll realize, in fact, the cuts that they're talking about are not true. They're not in the bill. There's an increase for veterans in this bill. You know what else is in this bill, Mr. Speaker? And I want to applaud again the chairman of the Appropriations Committee and his members for negotiating something that's been needed for a long time, and that is the largest pay raise for our junior enlisted military personnel in over 40 years. Now, if somebody doesn't think our men and women in uniform deserve that pay raise, maybe they'll vote no. I'm proud to say I'm going to be voting yes to support our men and women in uniform who've been waiting for that raise and deserve it. How can you justify a no vote on that, Mr. Speaker? That's actually in the bill. As they talk all day about what's not in the bill, because they were against it before it was even written, if they actually read this bill, again, only 99 pages, it's a pretty quick read, you would find out that pay raise for our troops is in the bill. Stronger funding for our veterans is in the bill. But why are they voting no, you would ask? Just because the name of the president is Donald Trump. I think the people of this country are fed up with that kind of hatred that consumes people here in Washington.
Fortunately, Steve Scalise is still with us, and he's delivering a perfect response to Hakeem Jeffries. Which, by the way, what he's talking about, what Hakeem Jeffries is talking about here, makes zero sense under the microscope. One of his claims was, oh, extreme MAGA Republicans. Really? You want to give us even cooler names? We already had MAGA, now you have extreme MAGA? That's amazing. Thank you for doing PR work for us. But the whole idea that, Trump ordered the Republicans to vote no on a deal that Congress had gotten together and had nearly passed that would have alleviated illegal immigration. No, Hakeem. The reason that this was told to vote no was it did not fix the fundamental problem, that people are abusing the asylum system. People have been abusing literal humanitarian aid in order to come here to the United States. Do you know why Laken Riley is no longer with us? The man that slew her was originally arrested all the way up in New York City. All right? They had him under arrest, but they let him go because the city is already radical enough. And now they're going to elect a socialist. I'm going to love to see how that one turns out.
American dream, affordable health care, fair wages, and secure retirements, while portraying Republicans as agents of chaos serving elite interests. In response, Steve Scalise delivers a pointed rebuttal, defending the bill and slamming Democrats for what he sees as fearmongering and deliberate misrepresentation. Scalise insists that the bill, only 99 pages long, has been unfairly criticized by lawmakers who haven't read it. He emphasizes that the legislation increases...
But this dude then abused and got a humanitarian aid package that allowed him to fly over to Atlanta so he could live up with his friends who were also illegal and family up in Athens, Clarke County. So, yeah, the whole thing that Hakeem Jeffries is complaining about was not getting fixed with that bill. And that bill also allowed for thousands of asylum seekers to come in daily. All they had to do, if they were ever caught, is go up to a federal official and say, "We seek asylum." And then we couldn't do a thing about it. If you want to talk about poison pills and legislation, I think that's one of them, Hakeem. Hey, y'all. Here's the deal. Gold loves President Trump. Under Trump's first term, the price of gold soared 53%. And the price of silver jumped 51%. Since the start of the second term, gold has skyrocketed even higher, breaking records and even outperforming stocks. Here's what I like about precious metals like gold and silver. They have been used as a store of value for centuries. Governments can't easily manipulate it. They are used as hedges against market risk and, of course, against inflation. That's why I partnered with the amazing people over at Goldco. Goldco is an award-winning precious metals company. They are fans of this show, and they have helped millions of Americans just like y'all
funding for veterans, delivers the largest pay raise in decades for junior enlisted military personnel, and addresses long-standing issues of waste, fraud, and abuse within government programs, including Social Security. He cites examples of glaring inefficiencies like records showing people aged 300 still receiving benefits as proof of the need for reform. Scalise also dismantles Jeffries' criticisms of the border policy, arguing that the Democrats' proposed bill
to purchase over $3 billion in gold and silver. Right now, you can get a free copy of their 2025 gold and silver kit. On top of that, you might also qualify for their amazing unlimited silver bonus offer. So don't wait on this. Go to politibrawlgold.com to learn more. That's politibrawlgold.com or call 855-644-GOLD. So yeah, this isn't about doing the will of the president. This is about following on the will of the people. The American people have had enough, particularly those under Democrat rule. They have understood that these illegal migrants who have been shipped over, bussed over, flown over,
failed to close key loopholes in the asylum system and continued to allow unchecked illegal immigration. Citing a tragic case involving an illegal immigrant who was released in New York, later accused of murdering a young woman, Scalise underscores the urgent need for stronger immigration enforcement. He highlights how cartels exploit the current asylum system and traffic minors, a situation worsened by what he calls the Biden administration's failure to act and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas' mismanagement. Scalise defends the bill as a big, beautiful response to the problems festering under Democrat leadership.
Are now getting 3, 4, 5-star hotels, luxury apartments? Where is this money coming from? And it's coming from the taxpayers. And it's coming at the expense of money that could have been spent making the neighborhood better. So yeah, you had a huge outcry from folks in Democrat cities all over the country, and it spread like wildfire. And it does not matter where you are here in the United States, illegal immigration is a problem. And so for Hakeem Jeffries to go out there saying, oh, we had a bill in place, that bill was terrible, and now the big beautiful bill also takes a huge bite out of that problem as well. Not only are we now looking to pay more for our soldiers, we are also looking to ramp up law enforcement to ensure that not only is illegal immigration curtailed, but almost more, you know what, I think it actually is more important that we deal with the cartels. Where do you think the human trafficking comes from? There are people with tattoos on their arms to identify who they are and to make sure that the cartel can come in and check on them. There are millions of known gotaways. We have lost hundreds of thousands of
one that both addresses national security and restores fiscal discipline. He accuses Democrats of being driven by irrational hatred toward Trump and of opposing the bill simply because of its association with him, regardless of its merits. Scalise asserts that the bill not only empowers law enforcement and border control but also aims to dismantle the systems of corruption within agencies like USAID, which he
minors, children who have been trafficked across the border, particularly under Alejandro Mayorkas' terrible management. That man mismanaged American taxpayer resources in order to fool around and allow the illegal immigration to get worse and worse and worse. And so Steve Scalise is just giving the basic lowdown on what's in the big beautiful bill. And I do think it's kind of ironic that he says it's only 90 pages. Let's be honest, if your bill's longer than 20 pages, you might want to trim up your bill. But I do understand that this actually
has funneled money to friends and relatives of government insiders. Ultimately, Scalise's message is that Republicans are working to uphold the promises made to voters, especially in the 7 swing states that supported Trump, and that the bill represents a step toward restoring government accountability, safety, and economic fairness. Judge, in this metaphorical trial of public policy, is the American public and the legislative process itself, with Scalise urging citizens and lawmakers to look
does good work. And so you can argue down in the comments below whether we need this sort of spending, because let's be honest, our debt and our deficit is still a huge issue. But it's interesting to note that Hakeem Jeffries is out here clutching his pearls when he didn't bother to once clean up the waste, fraud, and abuse, particularly in USAID. That organization, as it turns out, has been a backlog for funneling money. And I don't think I used the right phrase there, but I do think you understand what I'm saying. It had a whole system of funneling money to often friends and relatives of known people in our government. That smells a little bit like corruption to me. And finally, we've realized that our government has been working against our own interests. They do not care about making things better, or at least they didn't while Joe Biden was in charge. We've got a deep state problem, and the big beautiful bill is an attempt to deal with that. And instead of looking in the mirror and going, maybe we need to work with Republicans on this, Hakeem Jeffries is doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down. It's not going to end well for them. We're already seeing what happens when Democrats start going full feral, and they're now electing full-blown socialists. All right, we tried that experiment in 2020. It did not work, and it rebounded so horribly that Republicans have now won all 7 swing states, and the Democrats have lost a major part of their coalition. And so instead of tackling that, Steve Scalise is instead staying in bounds, just talking about the big, beautiful bill. And he does a fantastic job, and I am very glad that he is still with us. That's a good man in Congress doing a great job. And Hakeem Jeffries, come on, man. I think you know better. I think Hakeem Jeffries knows better, but he's forced to act in an otherwise insane way, all to please the insipid wishes of rich white liberals who have forgotten how to govern. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.
Past the noise and focus on the actual content of the bill. In this ideological courtroom, Scalise positions himself as the pragmatic advocate for reform, transparency, and patriotism, while portraying Jeffries and his allies as emotional obstructionists clinging to failed policies and party loyalty. The solution presented by Scalise is to pass the bill as a necessary corrective to years of mismanagement, and to signal to Americans that their concerns, border security, national debt, and government waste, are finally being taken seriously.